Welcome back, learners. I'm Dr. Sunita Dhal, faculty of School of Gender and Development Studies, IGNOU. And we were discussing about the certificate program in Gender and Science in our last session. And in this session, we are going to take it forward, our discussion with regards to women's question in science. So what in the last session we focused on two broader patterns or trends which have been observed in India with regards to gender discourse in science. That is, there is a decline of female enrollment from primary to secondary and tertiary education, and what are the factors, that is socio-cultural factors, which are going to discuss further in this particular session, which our two courses are going to focus on. And second trend was that women's access to higher education at the undergraduate and graduation level has increased since the year 1947. So you could see that there is a positive trend. At the same time, there is a gender gap or gender difference that exists across disciplines. With this, let's move on with our discussion with other two courses which are part of the certificate program. Second course is BGS 003, that is Socio-Political Dimensions of Gender and Science. So this particular course, it is talking about women in science education, Indian policies and program, then women in industrial sectors. So when we look at the first course is more conceptual in nature, little analytical, and that is also important for all the learners, because unless and until we understand the concept of gender, then how are we going to demystify the question of science? So therefore, it is very important that how we see a particular data from a gender perspective or gender concept, and therefore we design the first course in more theoretical, conceptual and analytical way. And now it is more with regard to policies, with regard to data in terms of international data as well as data from India. So yes, you could have understood that how gender is seen as an occupational barrier, like in different occupation, and certainly it is seen as an occupational barrier primarily when we are pursuing our science career. And what are these policies? Do we have any policies in India? Yes. The Department of Science and Technology and other departments as well have different policies designed to encourage women's participation, girls and women's participation in science. So some of the key policies here we can reflect, it is there in the PPT. The National Policy for Empowerment of Women in 2001. Then there is from 6th 5-year plan, Science Technology for Women, S&T policy for women was designed, and 10th 5-year plan in the year 2002 and 7. Women Scientist Scheme was designed. Then Science and Technology Policy 2003 it came. Biotechnology Career Advancement and Reorientation Program came into existence in 2010. Science, Technology and Innovation Policy 2013, and 12th 5-year plan is Kiran, that is Knowledge Involvement in Research Advancement through Nurturing. And the recent program is Gati. So how to look at the whole question of, we are talking about gender equality, how to bring about gender equality in science or scientific institutions. But Gati aims at bringing about gender equity. How to change the microclimate of every scientific institution or every science disciplines so that more and more women feel encouraged to participate in doing science. So if, we really have to break the or demystify science as a discipline, as an institution, as a practice. So one of the important factors we have to understand is the gender stereotype. What we have in the last session, we covered about gender roles, but here we can also look into the whole question of myths and stereotypes in science. So there is a study, a meta-analysis of trends in international mathematics and science study 2015, which is an international assessment of mathematics and science at the 4th and the 8th grade, shows that boys had higher achievements in 18 countries, because ये international assessment है. तो ये स्टडी दर्शाता है कि हमें 18 कंट्रीज में बॉयज़ ने अच्छा किया विथ एवरेज डिफरेंस ऑफ 9 points एज कम्पेयर टू गर्ल्स हु हैड हायर अचीवमेंट इन 8 countries. बट जिस कंट्रीज़ में गर्ल्स ने अच्छा किया in terms of in this mathematical assessment में वहाँ पे average difference 18 points था. So you could see that. So that is not a stereotype, when I was in the school, so there was a kind of a stereotype that, girls will do certain disciplines like humanities, social sciences, home sciences, right? So mathematics is something that a boy can do, or boys are encouraged to do mathematics. So it is not only there within the family or, in the community, but at also this reflection we could see subtly it was there in schools as well. I remember when I was studying, at primary or at secondary level. So here this question comes is that 23 countries showed no difference between boys and girls in average mathematics achievements. Then continue with another example where it shows that the Singaporean school system is challenging stereotypical views where girls are achieving high results in mathematics as boys. So it is not that, girls can't do science, but how do we break those gender stereotypes which exist in different society or in different culture? How to make that socio-cultural factors conducive for girls to perform in science disciplines, where I feel, and also the literature, many research studies have focused that teacher plays a very important role. Like teachers are the role models in influencing or dispelling gender stereotypes in STEM education at a very early school days. Therefore, teacher is a very important role here to play in terms of dispelling or demystifying gender stereotype at the school level. Going beyond traditional STEM instructions and use hands-on activities or real-world examples in the classrooms would ensure gender parity in science and mathematics at the school level. And in block 4 and 5, we are talking about some of the debates, that is international initiatives and how we are talking about science is gendered. Through international data also we are going to focus, and something that is gender science culture, where also the question of how different disciplines are overly represented by women. That is a gender clustering in certain disciplines. There is a glass ceiling that many of women are there at in the IT sector, but at the same time how many of women are there or break the glass ceiling and there in the decision making role or in the leadership role. These questions, or there is a gender segregation of disciplines, there is vertical segregation also, horizontal segregation also. So here these questions or these concepts have been dealt deeply in these blocks. So what are the key points? That women still represent just 29% of researchers globally. So here also it is very important for us to look at the research data. So how globally, what is the percentage of women, as researchers across science disciplines? Question of mentorship, network, role models also needs to be interrogated. The women's representation in different industries. So when we are talking about industries like health industries, manufacturing industries, right? So in small scale industry. So when we are talking about small scale industry, you could see that larger women are there in small scale industries, as workers, right? So here, the gender disaggregated data, collection of gender disaggregated data is very important, because it also reflects that which are those industries, like how many, what is the percentage of women in the manufacturing sector, what is the percentage of women working or represented in the health industries, in health and wellness centers, or in hospitals, and what are their labels, what kind or what is the nature of job that they are highly represented, like women as surgeon, as doctors, as general physicians, vis-a-vis women as support staff. So these questions are also very important. So, and the intersectionality debates within science, whole question of caste, race, sexuality, class, ethnicity, in the question of doing science and practicing science. So it is an interesting data I thought we can discuss briefly, is about women and Nobel Prize. Until 2019, 616 awards in natural sciences, where 3% were women. 932 individuals till 2020, 6.1% is women who have got, and 222 total individuals in physiology or medicine category, and out of which 12. So if you really look at all the awards, you could see the percentage of women getting the Nobel Prize is less. And what are the challenges? Why this gender difference in research in getting the Nobel Prizes or into leadership position, or women percentage in corporate boards? Because many women are working in the corporate sector. So how many of women have been able to be in the corporate boards? So these questions, even in India, we could look at the data of Santi Swarup Bhatnagar Award, the prestigious award in science discipline. So what are the challenges? It reflects and subtle challenges that exist across countries, both global and at the national level. The double, triple burden on women. So as I said, how that is a division of labor that exists, and what is the double burden that women who are scientists, technologists, they also are taking care of the household primarily. So you could see that in some of the movies, how women's role have been represented, like even scientist role have been represented across different, within the family setup as well. Major loss in numbers between postdoctoral stage to faculty stage. So they could do for postdoctoral stage, but at the same time, gradually the number decreases. Like how many of women are represented as faculty positions in science disciplines in premier institutions. Discrimination at the time of selection, harassment at the workplace, and exclusion also at workplace. So this is a study by Binita Bal in the year 2021. So exclusion also, say when we see that women are emerging as leaders in science field, science and technology field, or as administrator. So there is a kind of a exclusion that also women face as scientists, technologists, administrator or leaders, whether they are in corporate sector or in public institutions. Socio-cultural barriers also there, like how I give the example of gender stereotypes in mathematics, and gender inequity at the workplace. So where the Gati program actually was situated, like inequity. There are policies have been implemented well in India to bring about gender equality, but it is now time that we must also bring about gender inclusivity by ensuring gender equity in across scientific institutions or within institution, but across scientific disciplines or departments, I would say. Here we are talking about last course, that is BGS 4, that is Gender Perspectives on Health. Here also we can look at some of the question, that is role of mentoring in science. Why we need to talk about role of mentoring? That at the beginning of doing science, it is very important for us to look at the role of mentor. Who would be your mentor? So here research training should be available in all disciplines. Career is something that is not sidetracked when scientists have interrupted careers to fulfill family responsibilities. Outreach efforts exist for young girls and women who have interest in pursuing science. Professional societies also need to support career advancement of women scientists, and network of support should also exist for women scientists. So this is very important for us, that networking, we can't ignore the role of mentors here in scientific disciplines or in, for women scientists, technologists and leaders in science. And also how do we create research networks so that more and more women feel encouraged to participate in pursuing science career and to go higher in terms of decision-making bodies. As I said, this would be our concluding discussion on the last course, that is BGS 004, Gendered Perspectives on Health. This course is completely dedicated on health. While designing this particular program, also, there was a quiet debate that do we need to discuss about gender and health as a separate course? But it is very important because there is more women in medicine if you really see other disciplines in science, but at the same time there are discriminatory practices in modern science, nutrition, healthcare, and in terms of health, illness, and particularly reproductive health and maternal health. So what are the key points here we can look into? That is gender bias in various components of medical research, such as clinical trials, contraceptive research, and vaccines. So very good example I could give is a vaccine. So how you could see that COVID vaccine in countries after administering the COVID vaccines, so many articles, also many research studies globally have come up with how there is a kind of a difference in terms of gender difference, in terms of repercussion of COVID vaccines on women's body. The difference is on the basis of gender, but also there is also an access issue, like when how women did not, or the women were in some parts, in some communities, they there is an access issue. They were not they feel hesitant to go and take vaccine, or they were not even allowed to go and take vaccine. So one is that the implication of vaccine on women's body, which it is different vis-a-vis the whole question of access here, in terms of accessing medical facilities or accessing vaccine, accessing healthcare system is also another challenge at certain societies, culture, and countries. Healthcare and non-normative genders. How do we look at the transgender community here? Do we really have the healthcare, the primary healthcare system, community healthcare system to address the issues, the health challenges of the transgendered communities? So these questions have also been discussed. How girls are eliminated at the conception phase. So here you could see that even in India also there is a culture of son preference in certain parts of India, in certain states of India. So how girls are being eliminated, even like we have the PCPNDT Act in place, it has been implemented, but at the same time there is practice of female feticide in different parts of the country. In Indian communities, there is a lot of societal pressure to have a male child. And the last two blocks are focusing on perspectives on mental health and gender and disability. What are the key points here? Is that intersection between gender, mental health, and care. So here we are talking about the whole question of, is there a kind of a women's exclusion when we are talking about mental health issues, right? And even the question of marginalization and exclusion of gender in mental health issues. So there are different case studies which focus that how do we look at mental health issues or mental health context in terms of from a gender perspective, both women as caregivers or both women who experience mental health challenges. And disability, masculinity, and reproduction is something that is it's very complex subject that also been dealt deeply in this particular question. So now we come to the last slide of this session, that is on evaluation. It's very important because learners, you may be wondering that how do we take up evaluation? And as you can access the IGNOU website, you could see the assignments are there. Assignments are been, one assignment all learners are going to attempt per course, and there is a term and examination. So assignments are part of our continuous assessment. And what does this continuous assessment mean? That you submit assignment and you can get the feedback to improve upon the assignment. And it helps that feedback of your teacher, feedback of your academic counselors, help in terms of improving the knowledge base and also the writing base of the learners, so that they can do well in the term end examination. The new assignments will be uploaded by the 3rd week of July. And plagiarized assignments are not evaluated. Please do not plagiarize it. It is an ethical violence in the context of education and knowledge. Handwritten scanned assignment to be submitted through your nodal RCs. Our examinations are held for all the courses twice in a year, and program completion minimum 6 months. It is always encouraged that it's a certificate program. You can complete 3 courses in 6 months, and maximum duration is for 2 years. And I am Dr. Sunita Dhal, and I have with me Professor Savita Singh, and we are the program coordinators. Our emails are there in this PPT, and any problems or any questions, academic questions you face in terms of, how to submit the assignment, or you have not understood some of the assignment questions, or how do we get the feedback from our teacher from us. So all these questions you can freely email to us, and we can write back to you. And timely we hold our Gyan Darshan sessions, and certain topics from different courses have always been taken up in Gyan Darshan sessions. So always log in to the, whenever there is an information, it will be posted in the website, so that you can always access some of the videos and the content from the website. With this, I thank you once again for listening to the session, and have a good day. Thank you.